Hi, I'm here to introduce to you the delights of the Anti-Sicilian. If you like, this is a sort of anti-Sicilian video. I can only hope that an anti-Sicilian one never comes to fruition. These quite timid variations are becoming more popular as a way of frustrating the likes of Sicilian dragon players, myself included, who are more accustomed to nail-biting encounters involving do-or-die attacks. The problem is that this rather tedious tactic is only too frequently succeeding. The long and short of it is that these lines must now be taken seriously. The systems I'm about to recommend for black are generally my own favourites, and those that aren't I will soon be adopting. They are simple and hopefully effective antidotes. The Sicilian C3, or the Alpin-Sveshnikov variation, is the mother of all anti-Sicilians. The stigma attached to it as being dull and rather boring, in my view, still stands, although it has become more socially acceptable since being adopted by the likes of world champion or ex-world champion Anatoly Karpov. White prepares to get a strong pawn centre with d4, c takes d4, and c takes d4. This is something which black cannot really allow. I'm suggesting that black takes advantage of the fact that the white knight can't come to the c3 square here by playing d5. If white advances this pawn, black can obtain a good French defence with bishop to f5, pawn d4, and then e6. A highly satisfactory position for black. Instead, white is much more likely to capture on d5, e5, when, for the moment at least, it's safe for the black queen to come into the centre. Queen takes d5. White, with a few holes here on c2 and d3, is really forced to continue d4. And let's say a developing move, knight out to f6, and white follows suit, knight f3. Now here there's a few possibilities for black, knight c6 for example, or simply e6, but I'm suggesting the aggressive continuation, bishop to g4. This exerts further pressure on the d4 pawn, of course because of the pin for the knight and the queen on d1. From here, let's say that white has three modes of play which I'd like to discuss. The first is a new idea of Sveshnikov's, which is Queen a4 check. The reason behind this will become clear soon. Bishop to e2, with bishop e3 bolstering the centre, is another white plan, and instead of bishop e3, also knight a3 has been employed on a regular basis. From here the knight can come to either b5 or to c2. Beginning with queen a4 check, black will prevent the check, knight c6, and now bishop c4, this is the point. White evicts the queen from the d5 square. Now to illustrate this variation, I'd like to demonstrate a miniature. These are fairly rare in the C3 Sicilian. For those of you that have seen the Sicilian Dragon video, you'll notice that this game is sweet revenge for Richard Britton, who suffered horribly against Martin Olsson's Sicilian Dragon. Britton, as black, retreated the queen to d7, after which Olsson grabbed this pawn on c5. You'll notice now that black gets an awful lot of compensation for this pawn which white tries to look after. In particular, all of his pieces are amassed on the queen side. Black took the knight on f3, bishop takes f3, shattering white's kingside pawns. White was forced to recapture, and then black played e6, simply developing the bishop on f8. White played b4, a bit pawn greedy, bishop to e7, preparing castles, and white developed his c1 bishop. Of course, he's going to worry about castling kingside because his king will be particularly exposed over there. Black swung the knight into the centre,